Welcome to the 2024 Smithsonian National Education Summit. This session is a special pre-recorded opportunity to connect with education resources and initiatives. The presentation is also part of a larger lineup of over 40 sessions that include Smithsonian educators, classroom teachers, and leading education organizations and partners. This session is part of the Using Arts to Connect Past and Present track, which demonstrates the role of art in mirroring historical events, social movements, and cultural shifts. Welcome to Moving the Arts from the Elective to the Core. I'm Elizabeth Dale Dynas, an educator at the Smithsonian and moderator today. Our panelists today share a background in Waldorf education. I'll introduce each of them here. We'll begin with Dr. Liz Bevan, who has nearly 40 years experience in Waldorf education as a class teacher, school director, adult educator, researcher, and speaker. She's the executive director of the Alliance for Public Waldorf Education and has been actively engaged for almost 2 decades in the expansion of the Waldorf approach into public education. Perhaps her most informative perspective has been as a parent of Waldorf students and now a grandparent. Megan Gill is the Director of Education and Organizational Culture at Sunbridge Institute. Megan spent 24 years as a Waldorf early childhood educator prior to her current role in adult education. She is also a co-founder and facilitator in Alma Partners. Megan graduated from Evergreen State College with a BA in Health Sciences, Sunbridge Institute in Early Childhood Education, and will soon graduate from SUNY Empire with a Master of Education in Curriculum and Instruction with a focus on Waldorf education. She lives in the Lower Hudson Valley of New York with her wife and cats. Monique Brinson is founding head of cultivation and CEO of Encompass Four Corners in Alameda, California. She brings 20 years of experience as an administrator in private, charter, and district schools, along with 10 years of experience as a founding teacher in Boston's small autonomous schools movement. Monique is poised to enter her second year of study at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. Monique takes an intersectional lens and sees the importance of inner work that starts with self. She's guided by family and is connected to community and is also rooted in ancestors. Finally, Dutch-born and German-educated Dr. Iba Obermann, PhD from Stanford, is founder and executive director emerita of the Community School for Creative Education, the country's first intercultural urban Waldorf school, as well as being the senior research fellow at Alanis University, Germany. A Waldorf graduate herself from Tübingen, Germany, and certified Waldorf teacher in Stuttgart, Germany. She has served as education program officer at the Hewlett Foundation and as a high school teacher in New York. Liz, we'll start with you. What are the big ideas that teachers should listen for today?
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you all of you for joining us today. A few of our big ideas. We will be speaking from a background of Waldorf education, as Elizabeth indicated, in which the arts are integrated across subjects and for all ages. And we are here essentially to advocate for the essential role of arts for all students. Why? Because the arts in their varied forms serve important functions, including the integration of learning, one through line, support of many ways of learning, another, and building a sense of pride, agency, and success in all students, another. They help us to express and process things that can't be stated in words alone. They evoke feelings, which in turn support engagement. We're planning to walk with you along a path of the developing child using the arts. As we go, notice how the arts support many, many aspects of the developing child.
So Liz, with those through lines in mind, I'm starting to wonder why to move arts from an elective to the core.
So I will be a little bit provocative in my response there. The question has messages about how we view the arts, schools, and education in our society and what we value for our young people. If we take a step back, we see that the arts are a basic part of human life. So it makes absolute sense that they're an essential part of our schools. They provide multiple benefits, which we'll explain and show. We argue that the arts should not be seen as additional or optional, to be removed if there are budget or time constraints, but as central to student flourishing, well-being, and learning, and not just for some students or schools, but for everyone. Our position is well supported by research. The arts foster connection and help make meaning. They allow our students to process their feelings and experiences and to anchor what they are learning. Just a quick note before we move on. What do we mean by the arts? They take many, many forms beyond our traditional definition of painting and drawing, which is often where we stop at schools. We expand to define the arts as visual, musical, dramatic, including puppetry, as you will see, storytelling, social arts, and others. Now, as a bit of a way in here, we see this child here forming an archetypal pattern from nature that we find in different forms throughout history and art and in religion, with this wonderful ancient Chinese verse that many of you probably know. We remind ourselves of this ancient wisdom, the need for integration in learning, which is a key function of the arts and essential for effective learning. Put very simply, the arts bring things to life for our students, inviting us to hear, to see, to engage, and to do with our whole being and all of our senses. As we proceed, I invite you to listen for ways that thinking, feeling, and doing or acting, sometimes referred to in Waldorf education as willing, are integrated into whole child effective education. Digging a little bit more deeply into the role of the arts, we see that they are not just for some students, as we've previously stated, but provide important benefits for everyone. They communicate basic information. They add enrichment. They build well-being and health. They help with executive function. Not only do they support the development of specific skills and learning, including language acquisition, but they also offer a wider range of gifts. Importantly for this time, they're also strongly aligned with the urgent needs of many of our students today. They've been shown to reduce anxiety, build resilience, and they reflect the principles of trauma-informed pedagogy. Equally important is this question of enrichment and success. The idea of the funds of knowledge tell us that the arts are an accessible and important way of including and recognizing the rich cultural and community life of each student. It is a way of honoring the students and their diverse backgrounds. Here, very simply, just as a visual, we see a developmental display of student work in more of the math and science realm, a way of enlivening all subjects. We don't always consider the arts in math and science, but here we see examples and note the increasing complexity of the student work as they get older.
So Liz, this is a beautiful entree into the idea of putting art into all the different content areas, but how is this done when instruction time is already so full?
So again, Elizabeth, I'm going to be a little bit contrary because I would argue that the arts save us time. We know that time in school is precious. We keep an eye on instructional time and how are we using it. But if we turn to the over 100-year example of Waldorf education, we see effective practice. Here we hold the arts as central, with a wide range of arts incorporated every day and used to support more formal academic learning. We know from this 100-year experience that the arts support interest, maintain attention, develop memory and engagement. So here is my argument that they actually save us time. They are also an important support to the many multiple language learners in our schools. For our learning styles, they provide diverse pathways for different learning styles, and they can be adapted to different communities. So our friend and our time saver if we integrate them. We're going to focus now on one particular art that is probably familiar to all of you in some form or other, the art of storytelling, with this idea of stories for all ages, cultures, and subjects as a way of communicating information and messages about being human. This will take us into the practice of the arts, and my colleagues will now demonstrate the arts in different settings. We invite you to enjoy this rich journey as you look at points we have raised so far, including engaging fully our students' thinking, feeling, and doing across several ages and in different subjects.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. So, Megan, I know that you work with an early childhood audience, and I am really curious about what you can tell us about using storytelling with young learners.
Yes, thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you, Liz, for that rich, inspiring introduction. As an early childhood teacher, fostering a love of language and life through storytelling is one of my primary tasks. My Waldorf teacher education included a deep dive into the developmental consciousness of the young child, their emerging imaginative and reasoning capacities. The stories I choose are meant to be life-affirming and healing for the sensory nervous system. And they provide seeds for potential for them to germinate throughout their work and play throughout the day. In this way, we give children the tools to become agents of change with imagination as their key asset. When I invoke the honorific title of storyteller, who do you see in your mind's eye? An elder or a crone, a caregiver or a grandparent, or perhaps an entertainer, someone who captures the attention of a crowd. Take a moment to consider why stories have been placed within this archetypal schema of festivals, campfires, and bedtime. Stories can be told at any time, but this relaxed receptivity implies how they work on the subconscious mind, opening us up to a form of imaginative thinking or inner picturing that creates new worlds, new possibilities, and new solutions. When we foster a love for story, we can harness its power to invoke wonder for almost any teachable subject. And this is a notable highlight of Waldorf education. The story, first offered to the youngest children as oral telling or as puppet shows from a teacher, focuses on the playful yet skillful use of language arts, organizational concepts such as the beginning, middle, and the end, and provides children with relational context to grow upon. In the grade school, these stories are replaced by tales of many peoples, lands, myths, math problems, scientific observations, history, and our collective stories. My colleague Monique will share a few examples with you next. As they grow from kindergartners to young adults, I witnessed this kind of imaginative thinking leading us toward the critical thinking that we need for our future, the earth, and one another. These imaginative solutions are medicinal and antidotal in nature. For these reasons, in many cultures and in my training, the storyteller is also regarded as a medicine person, deeply perceiving what is needed to bring healing. In my classrooms, I often saw a story's seeds emerge during playtime, the child embracing and trying out the scene through their own interpretation. Through story, play, and puppets, children explore characteristics and roles that help them find their way in the world. Stories and their puppets create connections over continents and span generations. They are mediators, friends, messengers, and witnesses. During COVID, I made this simple puppet show in my home office from a story called The Gnome Who Had to Stay at Home, which helped my class of 1 to 3-year-olds and their caregivers find imaginative pathways to describe and understand why we were meeting online and not in our classroom. I invite you to imagine yourself as a storyteller and a puppeteer. When we tell these stories from memory in the tradition of the oral storyteller, the children hear them differently than when we use a book or other media. They are more personal, from your imagination to theirs. When a puppet emerges, the story belongs to this benign friend, someone there simply for our delight or to be a helper. At story time, I use simple representations of people, animals, or the sun, and the children never minded if I substituted a pine cone for a pig or a piece of bark for a boat. Instead of using highly detailed props, simple ones leave room for the impressions from the young child's imagination to live. When we transform found objects such as corn husks and handkerchiefs, as has been done in many cultures around the world, these animate stories and characters give children permission to be resourceful, creative, and to explore in their own story making. Lastly, enlivening a story through finger plays helps very young children make connections between themselves and the world around them, and they delight in imitating the hand gestures. This play connects meaning to the words and develops dexterity in their fingers. To begin these practices, I encourage you to have courage. Tell a story that you love from your heart, from your culture, from your childhood, stories of your pets and your surroundings, simple stories with simple props. Include rhymes, alliteration, silly words, and invoke a sense of wonder and delight. If you want to introduce new characters to your classroom, start one at a time, a mighty ant for cleanup time, or a bluebird to wake the children from rest. And when these puppets are simple, they're approachable by many, many children. So use the resources available. Thank you so much for your listening, and I pass the mic.
Megan, thank you so much for your encouragement. I love the have courage at the top of this slide. And I really appreciate that you provided a whole cluster of resources that are linked at the end of this presentation. So then, Monique, you are the founder of a school that incorporates art across the curriculum. And I am really curious to know particularly about how you use art to connect the past and present in your school.
A grandson and their grandmother each has a story to tell, whether it is an artifact of California or one's autobiography of yesteryear in India. At Encompass Four Corners, the learning community is awakened and enriched through their sharing. But at this critical juncture in the United States of America, I am watching before my eyes the rollback of one of the most fundamental and coveted liberties, freedom of speech. Books of all genres, including my people's voices and histories, are now being banned from entering the hearts and minds of youth by adults. As an educator, this is horrifying. As an American, I am ashamed. As a person of African descent, I am disheartened. The power of words, the power of story, language arts, and other forms of art, and its integration within history, math, science, and other content areas allows for freedom of the soul. Here are the ways in my current educational ecosystem I do my best to be a catalyst for educating diverse children and unlocking their imagination, creativity, and voice when they create artifacts to show what they know and have learned. As I hope this leads to liberatory learning. There lives in my image of all that I can be. Until I have become it, my heart cannot be free. However, geography is the relationship of the human being to the land. To start with story, each creative writing about themselves and then family members. Their story begins with their birth in the San Francisco Bay Area. A verse, poetry is used to lift their imagination about themselves and California. We read texts about local history connecting the present and the past. We begin in the island town of Alameda, California, where our school is located. Good, beauty, and truth. Starts with self, guided by family, connected to community, rooted in ancestors. Learning is integrated using the head, heart, and hand. Who was here before us? And they are still here. We learn through story about the Ohlone indigenous peoples, visiting Chochenyo Park, painting and giving thanks to their land. Here we observe nature. The focus on the first is flora and then fauna. We visit Alameda Beach along the bay and the coast, finding our state flower and flora native to our community at the University of California's Botanical Garden. Hikes unlock the reverence for the redwood. We are co-constructing meaning about ecosystems. So now topography makes greater sense. We commence with map making. We bring the will, the doing again in an integrated way. Liquid and dry measurement, math. Observing the chemical reaction of salt, flour, and water, science. No need for store-bought dough. We made our own. The outline of California takes its shape. Learning about local fauna, we read stories about animals found in California. The grizzly bears, the brown bears are observed at the Oakland Zoo. Again, connecting stories and poems we've read about. While they listen, they sculpt grizzly bears out of beeswax. Their research and experience lend to their learning, thinking, feeling, wheeling. Their narratives demonstrate their knowing.
Monique, thank you so much. The beauty of your images, which people will be able to linger on as they can pause and then reverse the recording, is going to be so valuable. You do such rich work with these students. And Ida, I'm really curious about your community school where you bring students, parents, and school staff together through arts and celebration. So how does art bridge cultures in your diverse urban setting?
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you all. Yes, moving art from elective to core is not just for the privileged and high wealth communities. To the contrary, deep enrichment through the arts is particularly key for children surrounded by the richness and also the pressures of low-income urban settings. How? Let us visit the country's first intercultural public Waldorf school, K-8, in the Oakland, California flatlands. 90% free and reduced price lunch, 15% students designated special meals need, and over 60% multi-language learners. The school won the $1 million state community school grant for its students' performance on state tests through, yes, moving arts from elective to core. Come see how art helps bring joy, connects past and present, connects our children to themselves, their families, and their communities, and their ancestors. Let us focus on 3 examples that can be done in any setting: urban, suburban, rural, public, private, and home. First, opening circle. Take 10 minutes for an opening circle, an ancient artistic act. We know from brain research, whenever we open with a circle, we are helping students get ready to learn. They center in themselves, here I am, center in community with others, here is my friend to my right, my friend to my left and across, and center into a sense of the whole, the circle. It helps regulate breathing, balance, and alertness, brings readiness to learn with joy and sense of self. Just as Monique modeled, add a verse, under me the earth, over me the sky, here are my friends, and here am I. Possibly in multiple languages, in the languages of our families. You can add a song and a clapping exercise too. Take a minute to tell a story behind the verse, the song, the story, the clapping. The singing, they can then proceed to their classroom, or if in a classroom, to their desks. Second, music and knitting with families in the lead to help enrich. At the beginning of the school year, invite families to share what they might want to bring to the class. Offer the range of reading with children, knitting, baking, playing recorder. Find family who can come in and teach an instrument, a recorder. Here too, it regulates the heartbeat, allows the hearts to beat as one. Knitting, a beautiful way to build brain synapses for higher order thinking. Also, a way to build deep connections to each other and finally to self, family, community. And when we teach what lies behind the patterns we're creating, be it a rabbit, a doll, a hat, we learn the stories of past days. Festivals, fairs, or feasts, however we call them. Every family's tradition has such. They have their own arts and crafts and traditions woven together, yes, by story. At that beginning of the year meeting with families, ask after families' festivals. Create a festival calendar so you can acknowledge feasts celebrated at home. Also, from that, build the ones you will celebrate as a whole school in your class. Festivals bring delicious food and so much more. The stories that connect. Here you see a parent working on a grill from the mother's grandparent in Guatemala as the whole school celebrates the Latin American feast of the Day of the Young Child. As students learn the measurements to make the tacos, you bet you, the families tell the stories. Lunar New Year brings making lanterns, using math, building finger dexterity, while listening to stories of this festival. At the meal, all are in their finest, both those whose tradition it has been for so very long, and those who celebrate proudly in their finest too, knowing it is their classmates and their classmates' families' tradition. The art of learning and telling stories to connect past and present, learning to make lanterns or measure the ingredients of tortillas, and the joy and pride of learning your own and your friend's family teach a tradition that is now also yours brings such power and academic prowess. Also, never underestimate the power of the sheer presence of family and community in the schoolhouse, better yet, in the classroom. That families, the Child Zone and their friends are here with them confirms this is a safe space and a precious place where they and their learning and growth matters. In each of these ways, moving art from the elective to the core helps children access the core and, more importantly, builds strength in a continuous learning, builds joy and confidence and self-efficacy and purpose. And yes, it builds the economy of teaching, to go back to Liz. How wonderful at transitions to replace the 1, 2, 3 eyes on me, such a torn phrase, with leading the children in song, and better yet, once practiced, letting the children lead in song. Recall 3 things: the 10 minutes at the beginning of the day or class, inviting families to share their festivals and stories they were taught, and enjoy making Lunar New Year lanterns. See our resource guide for this and more, and easy instructions.
This resource guide is so exciting. I've enjoyed poking through it myself. And I'm so grateful to you, Ida. I'm grateful to Megan. I'm grateful to Monique for all of this learning. And Liz, I think you have some closing thoughts for us.
Very briefly, first, thanks to my colleagues for the beautiful images and powerful words shared. Just to pull out a few: honoring, life-affirming, rich tools, imaginative thinking, and connection. We hope that you agree with us that the arts are more essential than ever in today's schools and classrooms, where we're seeing rapidly increasing levels of stress and anxiety. The arts empower, building inner agency, a sense of artistry and poetry, power to discern, and courage to create. We know, all of us, that our students learn best and remember most when they are engaged. The arts invite full engagement of the mind, body, and feelings, the head, the hands, and the heart. This makes them a highly effective medium and support for teaching and learning. Going bigger, when we consider our students, including these two little ones in front of us, and their needs today and for their unknowable future, the arts are an important and essential part of providing what they need, including building imagination, flexibility, creativity, open-ended thinking, and an all-important sense of wonder and possibility. They help support and heal our students for today and provide essential qualities and skills for the future. Megan spoke of having courage to take up the arts, and we hope you will feel encouraged to include more arts in your classroom or school site. Speaking for myself, I'm not a gifted artist, yet again and again, I witness the benefits of the arts. We suggest that you start where you and your students are now and build. Perhaps storytelling will be that place for you, perhaps something from a cultural festival. Know that your students will deeply appreciate this and that your efforts will make a positive difference. We also know that we need to justify time in school, and in our reference section, we've included a very brief article by the late Elliot Eisner with language around lessons the arts teach. It helps us to have resources available. In closing, now more than ever is the time to ensure that the arts and their many lessons stand at the center of education and are not pushed to the periphery. Many, many heartfelt thanks to our hosts, the Smithsonian, for their support and for this important summit, and for the Smithsonian's ongoing deep commitment to arts and crafts today and into the future. Thank you.